Hello and welcome to day 8 of 30 GIMP tutorials. I have a fantastic image styling tutorial for you today with a retro twist. So let's do it. So here's my final edit again, and before we start working on this project, I just want to share a quick tip with you. If you ever want to see the before and after with one click, let me show you how to do that. So what we need to do is we need to go to our original image layer here and hold down your shift key, and once you click on this show hide button, it's going to automatically hide all the layers that you created. Boom, there's the original. How cool is that? Now once you click again, it's going to show all those layers. So that's a quick way to see the before and after. All right, let's go ahead and open up the image that we're going to be working on, and we're going to duplicate our image layer by clicking right here. I'm going to double click on the layer name so I can rename it Desaturate, and that's because I want to desaturate the colors to help give it that faded retro look. So let's go up to colors here and select hue saturation, and let's drop the saturation down to right around, let's do -25. So that looks pretty good. Go ahead and click OK. Now we need to add the files that are going to be used to help sell the retro style, which are the dust and dirt and scratches and paper texture. So I have 3 files that I'm going to use. So I have the number 2 file here, which is the dust and the dirt. I have my texture paper here from Annie Spratt, and I have texture 6 for my scratches. So I'm going to select all 3 files here, click and drag them over my GIMP interface, and they will automatically be added as new layers. Now I want to make sure that each one of these layers is the same size as the canvas or larger. So I'm going to grab my zoom tool with the letter Z. Let's hold down our control key or your command key if you're on a Mac. Click once to zoom out. So we can see this black and yellow dashed line right here. That's the layer boundary. So that lets us know that this layer is larger than our canvas, which is what we want. I'm going to turn that layer off and select my texture paper here. And we need to rotate it. So let's go up to Layer, Transform, and select Rotate 90 degrees. The layer boundary is on the outside, so we don't need to adjust that one. And then our dust and dirt is a little bit smaller on the left and right side. So let's grab our scale tool with Shift plus S, and that will automatically activate the tool, and then you can grab a corner or side to resize it, hit enter or return to resize it based on those settings. All right, so with Control or Command plus Shift and the letter J, that will automatically zoom the image to fit back into your interface right here in the middle. All right, so the first thing I want to do is I want to lower the opacity of the dust and dirt because it's a little too intense. So I'm going to drop this down to around 27. Now we have white dust, but dust really isn't white. So we can convert this white color to black by going up to Colors and selecting Invert. Now we can't see it because I lowered the opacity too much. So I may want to increase the opacity so I can see that dust and dirt. I'm going to go ahead and grab my zoom tool here and zoom in, and we can definitely see that dust and dirt much better now than we did before. But I don't know if I want black dust. It all depends on your creative vision, because the dust particles on a print are going to occur 2 different ways. One, it can occur during the printing process. So back in the old days when we did our printing in a darkroom, if there was dust on the paper or the film, it would tend to be white on the final print. But when you lay your print out or hang it on the wall and don't have glass on it, dust and dirt builds up, and dust and dirt is gray or black and not white. So it's entirely up to you based on your creative vision. I'm going to go ahead and leave it like that for now. One other quick tip, you can remove some of this dust and dirt in specific locations of your image by adding a layer mask. So let's do that real quick. We're going to click right here. We're going to add a white layer mask. I'm going to move this up, click add, and nothing has happened. And that's because white adds, black removes. So any edits or pixel data on your image layer right here will not be affected with white on the layer mask. It's not until you paint with black, which removes the pixel data or the edits that you applied here. So let's come over here to our color swatch and click on this little black icon here to change our foreground color to black, and then grab your paintbrush tool right here or with the letter P. I'm going to make my brush size smaller here, and I'm doing this with my scroll wheel. I do have a tutorial that will show you how to set that up as well, so go ahead and check that out. The other thing I want to do is I want to adjust the opacity of my brush so I'm not painting with pure 100% opacity or pure black. This is more like painting with gray, so you can gradually remove the particles as you're working on the image, and it's going to be a much more natural type of adjustment. So I'm just going to click and paint a few different strokes over the image here around their faces because I want to reduce those dust particles on their faces. So you can see they're beginning to gradually disappear. Now if you come over here and take a look at your layer mask, you can see there's gray on the layer. So black and gray removes. Black, of course, is going to remove 100% of the edit or pixel data, whereas gray is going to remove at a lower level. Okay, let's go ahead and zoom out again with Control or Command Shift plus J. Let's go ahead and turn on our texture layer here, and our two ladies there disappear. So let's make sure our layer is selected because we need to change the blending mode so it blends in with the layers below. So under mode here, we are going to select soft light. That reveals everything else below that layer, and if you zoom in with your zoom tool, you will then see that texture being applied to the image. That's a little bit too intense, so I'm going to go ahead and drop the opacity down to around 80. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and zoom out again. All right, so it's looking pretty good so far. Let's go ahead and continue adding to our retro style by adding some scratches. Make sure you have that layer selected. This time for the mode, I want to change it to screen. And let's drop the opacity down to, that's a little bit too much still, so maybe right around, I think right around 10 looks pretty good. Next, I want to age the image a little bit because again, when you leave images out in the open and they're exposed to light, the chemicals used will tend to change and degrade over time, and not only will they fade, but sometimes they will change the color of your print. So let's create a new layer right here, and let's call this aging. I'm going to set fill width to transparency. Click OK. Let's grab our brush tool again with the letter P. I'm going to increase the size here so I can cover more area faster. And I'm going to use this orange color right here. So if you want to use the same color, go ahead and type in this hexadecimal number, click OK. Again, the opacity, I want it to be below 100. So I'm going to start off right around 60 to 70 here. And then I'm just going to paint over the image here. And I don't want it to be a completely solid color in the image itself. So that's why I have the opacity set lower. So I'm just going to continue painting in different areas here. Now I'm going to switch to a blue color, which is a complementary color here. So I'm going to go ahead and select this one. This is the hexadecimal number here, so go ahead and type that in, and then just go ahead and paint over your image in different parts. A little bit opposite of the orange color, but you could actually mix the colors in together if you wanted to. All right, so that's looking pretty good, but I think we need to blend in that layer. So let's go to our mode here, and let's choose soft light. And that kind of adds that aging factor that I wanted to include for my retro style. All right, so the next thing we need to do is add some grain because a retro image wouldn't be complete without some grain. So let's go ahead and create a new layer. I'm going to call this grain, and I want to fill it in with a color because the noise filter that we're going to use requires some color in the layer in order to add it, and I don't want to add the grain directly on an image layer in case I want to adjust it later on. So we're going to work non-destructively by creating a new colored layer. So make sure you have fill width set to foreground. Then in your color swatch here, let's set it to 50% gray. Go ahead and click OK, and OK again here, and now we have our gray layer. We're going to go up to Filters, Noise, and select HSV Noise. From here we can make adjustments to the type of grain. Right now the value is set too low, so it's kind of hard to see, so I'm going to increase this to add that grain. Now, depending on the speed of your computer, it could take a few seconds to a couple minutes for this preview to update. I'm going to go ahead and drop saturation all the way down to 0 to ensure that there's no color in my grain. If I want to increase or decrease the randomness of my grain, I can increase or decrease the dulling slider to change the effect of that grain. I'm going to keep it at 2, and everything else I'm going to keep at the default as well, and then I'm going to go ahead and click OK. Alright, let's grab a soft light blending mode and apply it to the layer, and boom, we have some grain. So let's go ahead and zoom in here and take a look. So I think that's really adding to the look of our retro style. What do you think? Now that I'm zoomed in, I'm noticing some scratching on her face and her eyes. So I may want to go in with my layer mask and remove that. I'll leave that up to you. That's entirely based on your own creative vision. You already know how to do that, so I'm just going to go ahead and leave it like that for now. Alright, so I think we've done a pretty good job so far with our retro effect, but I want to give you one more color grading effect that's going to enhance the retro feel even more. So we're going to come down here and grab our desaturate layer. We're going to duplicate it, and let's rename it cinematic. And that's because I want to share with you a cinematic styling effect that I think will enhance our retro style. So what we're going to do is very popular in Hollywood. You see it in movie posters all the time, where there's a bluish tint in the shadows, and then the highlights are more orange, and that tends to help the subject stand out more versus not having that color effect applied. So the tool we're going to use to create this effect is the curves tool. So we're going to go up to colors and click on curves. So the curves tool is a tool that I love to use to edit and target different points of the tonal ranges in my image, which are the black shadows, midpoints, highlights, and the white points. But you can also target individual color channels to place or remove colors in different parts of your tonal range. So if we come up here and click on value, we can select blue, so let's go ahead and do that. And now if I click and drag this up, that's going to add blue to the entire image, but I want to target that color in the shadows, not in the highlights. So I'm going to click and drag this back down to right here, and I'm going to leave that anchor point there, because when I manipulate this line down here, which is where the shadows are, it's going to anchor it so that the edit isn't being applied in the highlights or the white point. I'm actually going to add another anchor point here so I can concentrate more on the shadows, because again, this is the midtones here. Now, to increase the color in the shadows only, we're going to click here now and drag up, and now that color is being applied mostly to the shadows. It might be affecting the highlights slightly because it's bleeding into it a little bit, but with these anchor points, we are limiting where that edit is being applied. How cool is that? I love it. All right, let's come up here now and select the red channel, because what I want to do is apply red to the highlights. So I'm going to anchor the midtones here and anchor them some more right there. And then to increase the red, we're going to click and drag this up, and let's take a look at the before and after. So remember, hold down your shift key, click on your original image layer to see the before and after. To learn more cool GIMP editing tutorials and styling your images, check out that video to your left. Thanks for listening, and have an awesome day.